There's a drain that happens in certain interactions. Not tiredness from a long day. Not introversion needing to recharge. Something else entirely. It feels like your energy leaving your body while you're still in the conversation. Like someone opened a valve and you're emptying out in real time. Most people blame themselves. I'm not social enough. I'm becoming antisocial. Something's wrong with me. They force themselves into more interactions, more dinners, more networking, more effort, but that's not what's happening. The drain is information. Your system is telling you something specific about the environment you're in, and you've been trained to ignore it. You've been taught that the problem is you, that you need to adjust, adapt, try harder. That connection is always good and isolation is always bad. Here's what's actually going on. You're experiencing frequency incompatibility. And the harder you try to force the connection, the faster you drain. This is the frequency isolation system. Here's how it gets built. From childhood, you're taught that socializing is a universal good. School puts you in rooms with 30 people your age and calls it socialization. You learn early that fitting in equals success. That being alone means something's wrong. Every authority figure, parents, teachers, culture reinforces the same message. More connection equals better life. By the time you're an adult, this isn't a choice anymore. It's wired deep. You don't question whether a social invitation is actually good for you. You question what's wrong with you if you don't want to go. The system runs on a simple mechanism. It treats all human connection as interchangeable. Coffee with a stranger who drains you counts the same as coffee with someone who charges you. A wedding full of unconscious small talk registers as social time, just like deep conversation with someone who actually sees you. The system measures quantity, how many interactions, how large your network, how busy your calendar. It never measures quality. It never asks, what is this doing to your energy? The trap works like this. You notice the drain. You feel exhausted after certain interactions. Your body is screaming information at you. But the system has already taught you that this feeling means you're failing at being human. So you override it, you push through, you show up to things that empty you out, because not showing up would mean you're broken. You're drawn in by the promise that connection solves loneliness. Because leaving would require admitting that most of your relationships are performance. And you can't see it because everyone around you is performing the same script, validating that this is just what adult life feels like. But here's what actually happened. Your consciousness changed. You started seeing patterns other people don't see. You started questioning narratives other people accept. You began operating on a different frequency. And now, when you interact with people still running the old programming, your system registers it as threat. Not because they're bad people. Because the interaction requires you to power down to meet them where they are. The system calls this growth antisocial behavior. It pathologizes your pattern recognition as cynicism. It reframes your boundary setting as coldness. Because if you're allowed to acknowledge that some people drain you and others charge you, the entire framework collapses. You'd have to admit that most of your social life is obligation. That most of your relationships exist because you haven't had the courage to let them end. If this makes you uncomfortable, that's pattern recognition breaking through the last layer of denial. Most people see relationships as commitments to maintain. Once someone is in your life, friend, family, colleague, the default is continuation. The relationship persists and something dramatic happens to end it. They optimize for not losing people. They measure success by how many relationships they've kept intact. Elite thinkers see relationships as systems that either generate energy or consume it. They understand that every interaction is a trade, your time and attention and energy in exchange for theirs. And like any system, it either produces net positive or net negative. They optimize for energy return. They measure success by how alive they feel. Here's the shift. System thinking reveals that everything is downstream of everything else. One draining friendship doesn't just cost you that 2-hour dinner. It costs you the energy you would have had for your work the next day, the clarity you would have had for the important decision, the presence you would have had for the person who actually charges you. Every piece of the system affects every other piece. Instead of asking, how do I maintain this relationship? They ask, what is this relationship doing to the rest of my system? Instead of guilt about setting boundaries, they see boundaries as system protection. Instead of forcing connection, they recognize that compatibility is frequency-based. You can't force two incompatible frequencies to sync. You can only pretend, and pretending costs energy. This reveals what others miss. Most people are bleeding energy into relationships that died years ago, but no one had the honesty to bury. They're maintaining friendships that require them to perform a previous version of themselves. They're showing up to family dinners where everyone pretends not to notice that you're all strangers reading from a script written decades ago. Watch how this plays out. Average thinker gets invited to an event, feels dread, analyzes why they feel dread, decides the dread means they're antisocial or depressed, forces themselves to go, spends the entire time watching the clock, leaves feeling emptied, blames themselves for not being present enough, resolves to try harder next time. Elite thinker gets invited to the same event, feels dread, recognizes dread as system information. Ask, what is my body telling me about this environment? Checks past data. Every interaction with this group has resulted in energy depletion, sees the pattern, declines the invitation, uses that energy for something that actually charges the system, notices increased clarity, creativity, presence in the days following. The difference is in the outcome. It's in the question. One person asks, what's wrong with me? The other asks, what's wrong with this interaction? Here's the method, the frequency audit. This is, if you're in this, you feel exhausted after events other people describe as fun. You can't engage in conversation that stays on the surface. Old friendships feel like wearing clothes that stopped fitting years ago. You'd rather be alone than perform consciousness you've outgrown. Start here, track your energy after every interaction for 1 week. Not your thoughts about the interaction, not whether it was good or bad. Just the energy state. Did you leave charged or depleted? Don't analyze it yet. Just collect the data. This will reveal the pattern your body has been screaming at you. Most people never do this because they're afraid of what they'll find. They suspect the truth, that most of their social life is draining them, but looking directly at it would require action. Week 1, you'll notice the math doesn't lie. Certain people, certain environments, certain types of interaction consistently drain you. Others consistently charge you. Your body already knows. You've just been overriding the signal. Once that's clear, reduce exposure to the depleted entries by 50%. Not 0. 50. Don't blow up your life. Just create space. If someone drains you and you see them twice a month, make it once. If you attend a weekly event that empties you out, make it bi-weekly. This is where most people panic. They think this means they're a bad person. They think they're abandoning people. They're not. They're testing the system. Notice the resistance patterns when you start pulling back. The guilt will come first. I'm being selfish. What will they think? I should be able to handle this. Then obligation. But we've been friends for 10 years. But they invited me. But family is supposed to be there. None of this is real. It's programming defending itself against deletion. The system will throw every narrative at you to get you back in line. Watch it happen. Don't argue with it. Just observe. After about 2 weeks of the 50% reduction, observe what emerges in the space you created. This is the part people miss. They think the protocol is about cutting people out. It's about creating room for what's been trying to reach you but couldn't get through the noise. Better work, clearer thinking, actual rest, the person you've too drained to meet, the idea you've been too depleted to develop, the version of yourself that has enough energy to build something real. What changes? You stop seeing relationships as moral obligations and start seeing them as energy systems. You stop forcing yourself into spaces that require you to power down. You stop performing an older, smaller version of yourself to make others comfortable. And the people who were only connected to that performance start fading naturally. No drama, no confrontation. Just frequency separation. Here's what most people discover around week 3. The relationships that survive the audit get better. Because you're no longer showing up depleted and resentful. You're no longer half present, counting minutes until you can leave. The people who operate your frequency, who charge you and you charge them, those connections deepen. Everything else was interference. Most people will read this and recognize every pattern. They'll feel the truth of it in their body. They'll know exactly which relationships drain them and which ones charge them. And then they'll do nothing. They'll return to the same dinners, the same obligations, the same performance. Because staying is easier than facing what leaving would mean. But you're still here. You didn't click away when this got uncomfortable. You didn't close this when it named the thing you've been pretending not to see. That means something. Open your calendar. Look at your next 3 social commitments. Ask yourself honestly, charged or depleted? Just notice. You don't have to cancel anything. You don't have to change anything yet. Just see the pattern clearly. The system is designed to keep you connected to people who drain you while you shrink to fit the space they allow. Every year you stay, you get smaller, more depleted, more distant from the person you're capable of being. You can see it now. The cage is invisible until you name it. Then it's everywhere. Whether you walk out is up to you.